Dixie Kong turns me on now. Ugh.
You're supposed to go that way, not down there. So not too long ago, I did an episode on old video game commercials, and it was a bit of a trip to look back at some of the ones that stuck with me over the years. It was actually pretty cool to poke fun at and look at just how weird, obscene, or awesome some of them were back in the day. I had a lot of fun doing so I figured, you know what? Surely I could find some more, whether I remember them or I dig up some more that just fascinate me. Oh yeah, we're doing another round of video game commercials. Let's get into it.
Mom. Come on, Mario. Come on, Mario, jump!
This commercial. Oh, this commercial. You're evil. So damn evil. Why? Because it tortured me for like a year or two, reminding me of how there was this new awesome Mario game and I couldn't get my hands on it. The first time I ever saw Super Mario 64, and to an extent 3D gaming in general, was at my cousin's house. I remember my folks having to stop there for a bit because I know I wasn't there for too long, but as any 6 or 7 year old would normally do, I was gonna see what my cousins Amy and Ryan were up to, and right there, that's when I saw it on the TV. It was Mario, one of my best buddies ever at the time, and he looks so different. I was so amazed by this because up until this day, my only gaming experience was this. The closest I ever got to a 3D perspective for video games was Super Mario Kart, so for my first exposure, it was mind-blowing. And that 10-15 minutes getting to watch him play was like crack for me. Now, the reason why this commercial taunted me was because of the level they chose, Wet Dry World. You can probably guess that this is one of the levels my cousins was playing on, the other, Jolly Roger Bay. I think he played on that one to give me nightmares, and another reason to not like being in the water in video games. But anyway, the minute I saw it, I fucking knew this was Super Mario 64. It was a different model, but I didn't care. It just kept reminding me of how much I wanted to play this game. It was so close through images and demo stations at my local Zellers or Walmart. Oh man, I could just taste that mustache. Ew. But it was just out of reach until I finally got that beautiful 64-bit system and was able to get my chance to play, no strings attached. Ooh, that was a good day. But despite my past grievances, this is still a classic video game commercial. That was a great way to promote the new revolution of console 3D gaming, all the while selling some cow juice. I completely forgot about this one until a friend of mine at Heman Gaming Station reminded me about it. But now that I'm thinking about it, I remember the commercial for this Halo game was a big deal for the time, simply because of how artistic it was. You know, we've had corny, funny, creepy, awesome, descriptive, and sometimes completely irrelevant scenarios to the game they were promoting. But this was the first one I can really think of that did this kind of advertisement in such a way. And it's a beautiful commercial, well really a trailer at this point. In fact, I'd say this was the turning point for video game advertisements, where many of them went from goofy to fun advertisements to this is an art form and maybe we should be taking this a little bit more seriously. You know, because these can be spectacles in their own right. Either way, I'm sure this commercial sold a lot of copies of Halo 3. I didn't have a 360 at the time, so this was completely lost on me. Probably why I forgot about it until I was reminded about it. But I give a lot of props to whoever thought of this one, cause, well done. Definitely one of the more unique commercials out there. I can't believe I actually overlooked this one, but I'm so glad it exists. So before, we talked about the Snuggle Battle Tanks parody, and just how shocking and awesome it was. Clearly they knew they struck gold with the first one, so when Battle Tanks 2 came around, the teddy bear was back and she got a couple upgrades.
A bear, barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild it. We have the technology. We can make him stronger, faster, softer, better. The new Battle Tanks Global Assault. Stronger, faster, better.
Unfortunately, Battle Tanks' developer went under before a third game could ever release, so Neil Snuggles' journey had to end here. But I'd say a parody of the $6 Million Man was a fitting way to go out. Obviously, it wasn't as good as the original, but let's be real here. Nothing was ever going to top it due to how shocking and out of left field it was. But still, I think this was a cute follow-up. It's not often when commercials get a legit sequel outside of maybe the cereal commercials back in the day, so it's nice to see that this existed. I'm sure they had a lot of fun making this, and honestly, it's still a lot better than most of the parodies that have been done over the years.
Now, I know this one technically is not video game related, but it kind of involves Reboot, and I've always viewed that series as more in line with gaming culture in general, so that's my crappy excuse. Plus, when the hell am I ever going to be able to talk about this? So, a little Canadian culture. One of the main kids channels in Canada is YTV, and one of the channel's main gimmicks was that they had these what they called programming blocks, and this one in particular was called The Zone. Essentially, it would be these improv skits between each episode airing where the host or host would basically shoot the shit for a couple minutes at a time, so that the credit sequences of the shows would be skipped because, you know, kids are definitely into the credit sequences. Sometimes they would be talking about a certain game or a popular product at the time, promoting it, maybe random stuff like animals or how much homework sucked, basically anything that was considered appropriate for kids at the time. When you watch any clips, it's not amazing acting. In fact, some may consider it pretty cringy or unprofessional, but I don't know. I always felt there was some charm here just due to how chill the segments usually were. It's not like it is nowadays where most things gotta feel like it's gotta have high energy and have that professional acting tone. It kind of reminds me of the show Hey Arnold, where I gained a deeper appreciation for that show as I got older due to how laid back and calm it was. But I'm getting off topic. So one of the things about The Zone was that these segments were basically live, or at least I think it was, because there were times where the host would mess up or say things they weren't meant to, aka bloopers. But with it basically being live segments, they just couldn't redo the take or cut it out, so they had to roll with what was produced back then. And some of these weren't harmless screw-ups either. Ever wanted to see someone copping a feel on live TV on a kid's channel? Well, there you go, or how about this bit?
This is Bob's car, you get a chance to win it, is that cool or what? Actually, it's motorized. You put the batteries in there, and look. Whoop! It's a TV screen. And Junior's on it.
Yeah, that's not Junior. His name's Enzo.
I know his name's Enzo. I call him Junior. Look, see? And you can take the picture out. Look at this. So we can put a picture of ourselves in there. I could put a picture of teeth in there, and it'll be just like Snit.
That's true. It's a snit in the back of your car.
Right on. And then you could have the guy doing them right in the front. I mean, you know, like...
What do you mean, doing me? That's not very nice.
I mean, you know, oh, I forgot.
I just love the reaction on Phil's face here. It's like, oh no, I didn't just say that, did I? I wouldn't doubt he was wondering for the rest of the day whether he was going back to work the next day or not. If it would have happened today, yeah, probably would have been canned right away. But back then, anyone would have seen it as an honest mistake that would have flown over most kids' heads anyway. But still, I laugh at it every time I see it. It's fucking hilarious. You know, Pokemon fascinates me due to the fact that it's still going this strong after 20 years. A series that has, with the exception of Gen 7, more or less has done the exact same damn thing every generation. Just minor changes and improvements to the formula, and yet it's still a juggernaut. Back in the day, it was pegged as an overblown fad that would die out after the second generation, but no. Whoever bet on that had a rude awakening coming, because that fad is still here. We're approaching Gen 8 with Sword and Shield. But like anything, popularity does taper off after a while, and Pokemon certainly did so sooner or later. Except it took like a good 2 years before the hype started to finally calm down a bit. But during that hype period, Pokemon ruled the world. It was everywhere. You couldn't get away from it even if you wanted to. And as a kid who was the prime target demographic at the time, those 2 to 3 years were a trip to say the least. But I'd say the peak of Pokemania can be summed up perfectly with the promotion Burger King had. Anyone around my age remember this? Of course you did. It was insane how popular these Pokemon toys were. You didn't have a clue on which one you were getting until you opened up the Pokeball to see what was inside, and there was 57. Yeah, 57 unique toys. And they were all grouped into different categories. You had your plushies, keychains, spin tops, and a couple others. You know Burger King scored on this deal, because in my area, these things were a pandemic. I constantly saw them everywhere, especially in school for trades. Hell, I remember hearing from my folks where there was this yard sale where their father had like a legit setup and list to keep track so he could trade others to get the complete set for his little girl. People wanted these things and they would go in pretty creative ways to get them. Also, kudos to that dad. That was a determined and loving father. That or he just wanted them for himself and he was just using his kid as an excuse. But either way, people were hooked. I mean, let's put it this way, when Burger King had to do a second run on these toys due to its popularity, that should tell you how much of a phenomenon this series was at the end of the millennium. But that wasn't the only thing they were doing. They were also selling these collector edition gold-plated Pokemon cards. And these were something else, man. They had a little bit of weight to them, and they were beautiful display pieces. And even came with these proof of purchase cards just to make them feel even more official. I used to have all 6, but now I just have the 2. But I'm actually surprised these don't cost a fortune, although I'm sure these sold really well too. Ah, what a time to be alive back then. Whenever I think of the SNES, the first thing that always pops in my head is the Donkey Kong Country trilogy. At the time, it was the most unique looking thing out there for gaming, and whenever I'd see bits or clips of it through art and magazines, the 3-second clips they'd show on Video Arcade Top 10, or the day I finally tried a series through Donkey Kong Country 3 for the first time, it's a series that cemented itself into my top 10 franchises. To me, this was a really cool clip since it actually showed the 3D renders of DK and Diddy, and it's fascinating just how Rare came up with this concept to turn 3D objects into 2D sprites. It really was revolutionary for its time, and it revived one of Nintendo's basically dead franchises. But oh, the balls on this commercial, man. Clearly this was a Console Wars commercial and it just felt like such a brutal headshot from Rare and Nintendo. The ones before this, like the Genesis Does campaign for example, was funny and ridiculous, but it always felt a little snarky, like there wasn't much weight to it at the end of the day. Even the Crash Bandicoot commercials, while hilarious and completely obnoxious, again only really felt surface level to a degree.
Man, your worst nightmare has arrived. Pack up your stuff. I got a little surprise for you here. Check it out. What do you think about that?
But here though, going right for the jugular. Where are you gonna find it? Not on Sega, not on 32X adapters, and not on CD-ROM. Nothing like taking a major shit on Sega and their failed Genesis add-ons. They knew they had something special here, and they had every intention of rubbing Sega's nose in it, considering the 32X and the CD were supposed to be stronger. You almost feel sorry for the company getting their name dragged through the mud badly due to just one commercial. But with how beautiful and fun DKC was to play, I can't help but feel that damn feeling, you know? Cause this wasn't said in a mocking or undermining cynical tone, you know? It was like, these are just the facts, people. Even with their little upgrades, Sega and nobody else for that matter can compete with the power of Super Nintendo. Now worship your true gaming god. Jeez, here's a game series that's fallen off the radar over the years. Tony Hawk Pro Skater, debuting back on August 31st, 1999. It was one of those games where you know everyone had at least one version of it. It's kind of like Mario Kart or GTA 5, you couldn't escape it even if you tried. But for what it was worth, they were pretty fun arcade-like games that had a pick-up-and-go mentality, where you'd play a few rounds and then move on to something else. I never owned any of them, but I did play and borrow, I think, Pro Skater 4, and I remember how addictive it would become. But it was definitely a product of its time with its punk theming and stick-it-to-the-man attitude, which these commercials definitely capitalized on. I laugh at the scene so much. Tony Hawk skateboarding away from the police pursuing him. Yeah, okay. He's like the most plain and honest looking good Samaritan mascot ever. Does anyone actually believe he'd get into trouble like this? Bam Margera? Maybe, which they did use him for later down the road in the Underground series, but not this guy. Or how about that ad for Pro Skater 2 where they show him pulling a Homer Simpson jumping this huge gap between two buildings? Totally realistic and actually happened. It's completely bullshit and laughable, but this was the beauty of commercials at the time, to see how ridiculous they could get with their scenarios. It's stuff like this that makes coming back to them worthwhile, I feel.
Cause I'm your pop song man, I'm your bubblegum man. You know what I say to you, and you know what you gonna do. We're gonna ride the bikes on the beach, cause I'm your pop song.
Oh my god, these were so great and the timing on them were perfect too. See, at the end of the millennium, pop music and boy bands in general were at their peak and were immensely popular. Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, NSYNC, and all their knockoffs were taking the world by storm. But while I do like some of that music of that era, shocking, I know, right? Someone like me admitting that? Fucking mind blow. But anyway, long story short, whether you liked the music at the time or hated it, nobody could deny that it was a fad, as most of them came as quickly as they went and tapered off into obscurity by, I'd say, 2003. And this was around the time the platinum color for the GBA was released. So what's the best way to promote something? I guess make fun of what was so 2 years ago. Like this guy, it's so uncanny and ridiculous, but I laugh so hard at it. Cause sure, it's obviously a parody, but it wasn't too far off from how some of the music videos went for these bands. I think the reason why I enjoy these commercials so much is because I think many people can relate to it. Especially when you're starting out on something that's a new venture and you don't have a clue on what you're doing, and you have to learn everything by yourself at first. I know I was like that for the first few videos I ever done, so awkward, cringy, and my performance was horrible. Hell, some may think it still is. But we all start somewhere, and hopefully I never get as bad as this dude ever again. Oh my god.
Stop just watching TV. Welcome to Sega Channel. It's cable, but you don't watch it, you play it. Your Genesis is hooked up to about 50 games a month, like Sonic and Knuckles, Earthworm Jim, and Super Street Fighter 2. Get secret tips and test drive new games before they're out. Pay what you want for as long as you want for one monthly fee. Sega Channel. Stop just watching TV.
You know, that kind of advertising, some tells me this was a very popular and successful product. Oh yeah, definitely was. Honest.
It's Sega season at Prime Cable. Right now, Prime Cable, Kmart, and Pepsi are offering incredible savings on the Sega Channel, Sega Genesis units, and games. All you have to
Or not. Buy a case of Pepsi and you're getting activation 1 month for free. I sense desperation. I did the inflation rate on that $35, estimating this aired in 1993, and it was like $60 back then they were waiving to get people on this service. Ugh, I love Sega, but when I see stuff like this, it really is a reminder how badly they went down the tubes after the Genesis. I give them credit for trying anything to get something to stick, but Sega Channel definitely wasn't it during this era. Ironically though, in some alternate dimension, this is what successful Sega's online store is probably called.
Whatever you do, don't call them cartoons. They don't like being called cartoons.
Oh, I'm sure this commercial would piss some people off nowadays. Now, keep in mind, I'm not talking about everyone here, but I think we've all heard the term at some point. You've got your fans, and then you got your insert-specific group fans. Well, I think we can add some anime fans to that list. The reason why this stood out to me as much as it did was simply because it reminded me of that angsty fanboy. I don't have to deal with it often, but there has been those times where I had someone trying to tell me there's a difference between cartoons and anime. I thought it was completely fucking bonkers the first time I heard that, and sorry, but no one's ever gonna tell me otherwise. Drawn animation is drawn animation, no matter where it's coming from. Shots fired! Oh! But to see just how, well, we'll say aggressively excited they were to state the difference, it was interesting to see, to say the least, because I just couldn't see myself getting that bent out of shape over a different name. Nonetheless though, I just cracked up when I saw this one. I know the motive was to say, hey, this is beyond a cartoon, this is the next level, an interactive experience. But it was just how the announcer said it, you know.
Whatever you do, don't call them cartoons. They don't like being called cartoons.
Who don't like them being called cartoons? The characters? Or the fans of those characters? Yeah, I think we know the answers to read between the lines. Well played, commercial. Well played. It's funny, but for how fondly I remember the Paper Mario commercials, I always get the first two mixed up, or I should say misremember them as the same one. So it was a bit of a shock not to see the paper roll or the boat scenes, but after looking it up, I was like, well duh, you dumbass! Those are features of the 1,000-Year Door, not the original, so why the hell was I thinking this for so long? Ow. So it was a surprise, but it was a nice surprise too, since I forgot how erratic this commercial kind of felt. It starts with Mario fishing for some reason, since, you know, he's always been known for that. Then he finds out Paper Peach was kidnapped again, so what does he do? I honestly don't know what the fuck he did here. Just floated into the water, then dragged through it, fell down a cliff, glided through a path, and smashed through a window on a rope. That would have actually been pretty awesome to do in game, but the ending to this bit, I can't be the only one to think about how morbid this is. Bowser slowly lowering Peach into a paper shredder? Like, god damn, dude. This is a pretty drastic change from wanting to marry her, don't you think? Fatal attraction much? You know, I don't think I'll ever be able to look at Bowser the same way again. Like, holy fuck. Well, at least I now know where the Go from Sticker Star and Color Splash came from.
Hey, Bobby!
Yeah?
How'd you like a chance to win everything Sega makes?
You mean a Genesis?
No, everything!
A Game Gear or a CD-ROM?
No, everything!
All the games too?
Yes! To win everything Sega makes, just go to McDonald's now and pick up your entry form to Fox's Totally Into Video sweepstakes!
Oh, video games! Wow!
Okay, I'm calling bullshit. Did anyone actually win this ridiculous contest? A Genesis, Game Gear, all the accessories in every Genesis game? Like, fuck. Okay, maybe I'm jaded, but I just couldn't see them actually following through on their end. Maybe a system in some games, but to win everything Sega made? I mean, I know by around the time the commercial aired, they were probably doing anything they could to stay relevant in people's homes, but fuck me, man, this felt too good to be true. I think it's just the every game part that gets to me, because I seriously doubt they had every game available to them, as I'm pretty sure they went out of production after a while. And I'm also sure it was more like, well, it's only 30 to 50 games, but they won't know the difference. I don't know, I feel like I would have had better chances with the real-life Hally on Deal or No Deal to win the cash to get everything Sega made. But I mean, hey, maybe it was legit and somebody did score on such a lucrative prize, but I seriously doubt it. So yeah, fuck you, Bobby, you little lying germaphobe piece of shit.
Something wild is coming. Something wild is coming. Wouldn't expect. Donkey Kong Country 3 starring Kitty Kong.
Oh man, am I in that part of the internet again? Fuck's sakes, man, Dixie Kong turns me on now. But in all seriousness though, what a way to catch people off guard to sell Donkey Kong Country 3. The minute I saw that face turn, I literally spat on my drink when I watched it because it was so unexpected and I thought it was hilarious.
This wasn't a commercial I remembered too much until I saw it again, but once I did see it after all these years, it did re-jog my memory. And I'm so glad I got to see it again, because it quickly became one of my favorites.
There's something you don't see every day.
Understatement of the year, gentlemen. I have this weird fascination with the origins of some famous characters, to see where they debuted and where they got their footing. It's interesting to compare sometimes, as some characters are pretty faithful to their current depiction, where other times they are radically different, like for example Kermit the Frog, who was once a psychopath and killed anything, specifically this poor soul for not liking a certain brand of coffee.
This machine will make you want a cup of Wilkins coffee.
Not me. Oh, take mine with cream and sugar.
Want some Wilkins coffee with your strawberry shortcake?
Can't say that I do.
You can't say that you don't either. On guard, salute Wilkins coffee.
But I don't drink Wilkins coffee.
Some learn, some don't.
Couldn't see him doing that in 2019. Hell, look at Mario. Sure, the hat and the mustache was there since the beginning, but look at all the jobs this guy had before plumber became the standard. A carpenter, construction worker, monkey beater. Yeah, I know where your mind went to after hearing that, because so did mine. But when it comes to video game characters, I don't know why, but Wario's debut in Mario Land 2 has always stuck out the most to me, because even back then he was pretty on point. A little creepy, a little evil, hates Mario, and is greedy. I guess it's just the idea of him putting a spell on people that was always intriguing. Like, was Wario always meant to be the lovable, gross doofus we know today? Or was he originally intended to be a much more darker and cunning character? It's fun to think about that stuff. Another character that comes to mind was Kirby. I mean, it's still Kirby, obviously, but here he looks like a little pink shithead. He's got attitude and will kick your ass if you step out of line. Or how about here, where him and his buddies look like demons, all ready to do some damage and eat your soul to take on your traits, kind of borderlining a body stature. Kirby is a pretty scary character when you really think about it, huh? Okay, I obviously have no nostalgia with this one since I never even knew it existed until I was browsing through commercials, and this also seems a couple years before my time, but I've got to really ask. What in the flying fuck is this?
Exercise introduces the Joyride, the amazing new total body video experience that will help your child develop healthy habits that will last a lifetime. It's the perfect family fitness gift. Only the Joyride gives your kids the non-stop action of the most popular video games combined with the healthful benefits of full body exercise. At last, here's the way for your kids to get the exercise they need and love it.
Yeah, and the Joyride is the coolest thing to happen since Sega and Super Nintendo. With Joyride...
The Joyride. You know, nowadays, working out with video games isn't a new concept anymore. The Wii days popularized it pretty quickly, and when done right, they can be interesting to fun experiences. But this, just how? Strengthen your legs, your arms, burn fat all the while playing a video game. You'll definitely develop some pain, but not the kind they're advertising. The position on this chair looks so goddamn weird, and who the hell would ever move like that? I know I never did. Hell, I think if my folks ever saw me doing that, they'd probably get me checked for ADHD. Fuck yeah, I got the joypad, I'm gonna go this and do that, get some exercise, strengthen my arms, fucking strengthen my legs, and then I'm gonna do this. I almost fell. Now, I know infomercials have always been over the top and they can be hilarious in their marketing due to how over-exaggerated the acting is, but that's usually reserved for showing how crappy the competition is. This over-the-topness is for the product they're trying to sell. Like, talk about the very definition of the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, I don't condone bullying or anything, but even I would have to give this kid a wet willy and shove him into a locker. That's how much of a weenie he is, and then there's the dad. Yeah, it's good for all sizes. I fucking bet you anything that guy needed help getting out of that death chair after filming. Like, I don't know. I've seen some weird and bizarre products on infomercials in the past, but when it comes to gaming-related content, it just takes the cake, man. Like, I want to know, did this thing even work? Because something tells me it didn't. But that was another round of video game commercials. Was there any I showed out today? Some of your favorites? Did you discover something new that you didn't see before? Or is there a video game commercial that you think would be fun to check out in a potential part 3? Let me know down below, but until next time, you guys have a good night or day or whenever the hell you watch this, and I'll catch you later. Fucking Joyride, man. My back is sore just thinking about it. Jesus Christ.